flew to meet my online girlfriend, but her anxiety kept her from spending time with me, leaving me alone and confused. A couple years ago I, 29 male, met a girl, 29F, through an online circle. We talked frequently and it was always a great time. She's very passionate about a lot of the same things I am and is very career driven, which is something I'm looking for. Early last year she opened up about having feelings for me, which I was receptive to. We started spending more time online together and eventually it got to a point where she would be telling her coworkers and family members about her boyfriend. This didn't bother me too much, I'm very interested, but for me I had to meet her to seal that deal. Fast forward to Christmas and my gift to her was going to be a trip up to meet her, USA to Canada. Trip was very expensive but worth it. We had talked about me going to meet her a few times, thought it was better that way as she has a lot of anxiety, very important for later, and health issues that would make it much harder for her, ESP in this current political climate. Well, that trip happened this weekend. I'm currently typing this out from my hotel room, which I've spent the vast majority of my time here alone in. Context TL, doctor, met a girl online, developed feelings, great match for each other, she lives in Canada and me, the US. For Christmas I set up a trip to come see her. She has terrible anxiety issues. The main issue, the trip to see her started off how I expected. I don't know this city at all, it's a country I've only been to a few times, and I was nervous myself. Took a 40-minute Uber to my hotel and expected by the time I got there that she would have worked out her nerves and be ready to meet me. Unfortunately her anxiety was extra bad and it took her another 2 hours to work up the courage to drive 5 minutes to come see me. This didn't bother me at the time, I knew it'd be rough and I'm a patient dude, for the most part. We met, she was shaking and bawling her eyes out, but overall it was great, some hugs and we drove to her place. She lives with her brother so I was able to meet him and we chilled out for a little while. Her anxiety was still through the roof though, so we didn't actually do much for the next couple of hours. She wanted to drive around and show me some stuff but couldn't. Eventually she decided I should probably Uber back instead of her driving me. Next morning I was up extra early, she usually works nights so I figured she wouldn't be up for a bit. Not knowing the city I chose to stay in and wait till she was awake. 4 hours later she messages me, we talk for a bit and she tells me she's not quite ready to see me as the nerves are still there. That's fine, I found a drugstore in walking distance I can pick some stuff up at and get us some food at a local spot, before meeting up. Fast forward about 2 hours later and I finally get back to her place. She doesn't eat anything and tells me her brother, her, and myself are going to go to a get-together and hang out with a bunch of their friends. That's cool, I ask her how long we'll be there and she said a few hours. We leave, it's about an hour drive. Every one of her friends were great, super welcoming and she seemed really happy to introduce me as her boyfriend. Little party lasts a good portion of the night, we don't talk much as I'm usually getting bounded by her friends or she's playing a game or something. It's around 10 when we go to leave, still plenty of night left I figured. She tends to be up till 3 or 4 in the morning so I was pretty pumped to get to spend the rest of the night together. However, as we get in the car she asks her brother if it's cool that she takes me to the hotel before they go home. He says yeah, and I just get to sit in, shocked the whole way back that she's too drained to spend a couple of hours of quality time with her boyfriend she just met. At this point it's all starting to catch up to me and I'm feeling pretty bad. I get back to the hotel room and I'm just confused by this whole trip. I'm alone, in a hotel room, in a country I don't know, with my girlfriend a few minutes away, not knowing what to do. What the hell is going on? I fear messaging her about it is going to make her anxiety worse, but at this point I don't know what to do. I'm set to meet her mom in the evening for dinner, and at this point I feel like I've met everyone except for my girlfriend. So I message her that. She's very apologetic, saying her anxiety is through the roof still and she wanted to make this trip worth it for me but she's just drained. She makes an effort to let me know she is still very interested in everything, but she knows if we're alone together that nothing would happen because she's just too nervous. She hasn't been in a relationship in a couple of years so it's hard for her. I tell her I don't even want to try anything intimate if that was her fear. I've barely hugged her this trip and there's a lot more steps in that process before anything like that could happen. I just want to spend some quality time together. She said tomorrow after I meet her mom there will probably be time. All that said, today is my last day here. I leave early tomorrow morning on a flight. I feel like this whole thing has been a waste and I'm still just confused. I wanted to spend quality time with her, not sit on a hotel room alone for most of my trip. In my mind she would want to be with me every waking moment of this trip. Our time is so short, we've talked about it for ages like that was going to be the case. I don't know if the relationship can last after this. Update 1. Yesterday morning I woke up, made the original post and waited nervously for her to wake up. It once again took a couple of hours. A little after noon she finally messaged me. She said we had dinner in the later afternoon with her mother, and I could Uber over to her place whenever. A few of you suggested I should just call off the dinner plans but I decided to stick it through. I went up to her place shortly after that and we spent some time watching things. She was having a better day so we sat close and while we didn't do anything, brother was in the small house. It was some quality time I had been looking for. Dinner with her mother was great, we connected well and she seemed to be genuinely excited for me and her daughter. We left with a hug from her mom and went back to her place. It was a lot more of the same thing as before, so while it wasn't alone time with her, it did feel more one-on-one, and we had a good time. Was it exactly what I was expecting on the last day of this trip? Not really, but was it nice? Definitely. It was getting late and I was half expecting her to want me to Uber back, but she drove me herself. She helped me confirm my packing for the flight early this morning, and we ended with a kiss. We got to texting a bit and we realized she hadn't taken a photo of us for a frame she had bought. I was pretty sad that we hadn't, and the few pictures of us from that weekend didn't really fit the vibe she was going for. I mentioned that I should just Uber back. 10 minutes later, waiting for a response, and she tells me to come down. Anxiety be damned, she did drive back just for the photo and another goodbye smooch. So, overall, it wasn't the perfect weekend, but I'm going to stay cautiously optimistic. I think it was a mistake to not make the trip longer, and think that would have helped even more. We'll see how things go when she has to decide if she wants to make the solo trip down here for an event closer to this summer. To clear some things up, she is on medication and goes to a therapist, though her current therapist is very new to her. Normally I wouldn't be into a LDR, but our likes and interests align well, and it's something I've struggled to find around me back home. My last relationship was decently long and taught me that was something I valued a lot. Thanks for all the comments on the other post. I imagine interest for another update will wane by the time the next trip happens, in about 2 months, but that is the time where things will really be make or break. Update 2. The last 2 months things seem to be going really well post first trip. She opened up a bit more about the meetup and was very apologetic about the whole thing. We spent the next couple of weeks in calls and video chatting, doing what we love together. Things were great, but something was missing. A piece of the relationship, something intimate and playful, seemed to have faded. This was her call. She decided that she should be less flirty and sexual online, until she can express that the same in person. I respected that. I believed it just needed time, and I've always been committed to working through things together. Unfortunately, that's where things started to spiral. One thing about her is that she's very independent, and that often came across as distant, uncaring. There's some days where she chooses to not interact with me, ignore my messages, or get short when I try to be affectionate and caring. Usually this only happens when she's having a rough day, understandable. Unfortunately, a week ago she was having one of those terrible weeks. In my head, a relationship should be one of comfort, relief, but while I tried to help her through it, she lashed out and started being distant. I tried to comfort her, but it was met with a coldness I couldn't understand. I had to guess how she was feeling and was left in the dark a lot. I made the, in hindsight, wrong choice of opening up about how I didn't understand and how I just wanted to be someone she could lean on. About how it made me feel awful I couldn't support her. I felt shut out so often. This turned into a lot of messages about how we felt about relationships in general, and the changes ours would need to take. It focused on how we care about each other a lot, but she has her anxiety and independent healing she has to work on, and how I have to give her more space and care less. The main villain, as was the culprit of the first meeting, was her anxiety. It's ruining her life in more ways than just our relationship. She's struggling everywhere. So her number one priority was to get in a better spot with that, then work on us. This was a great compromise, and I was excited for the next step in the relationship. I would continue to give her time and space, to wait for someone I think is a one-of-a-kind worth it, and she would get to the place where she believes that too about herself. And finally, now. I boarded the plane with a lot of hope. Things were good after a few days of us getting back on track. But as I landed, I got a short, heartbreaking message from her. She said she's not in a healthy enough spot to make this relationship work for either of us. That after some reflection, her problems are so bad that she needs to step away and work on them. She doesn't think she'd be able to handle the trip we'd planned, and would be ruining another critical point in our relationship. The part that hurts the most isn't the time I've given her, the financial, emotional, or physical pain. Or the fact this came out of the blue at the worst time. What hurts the most is it feels like she went from telling me how I was going to be her future, to her basically treating me like an acquaintance. The last few days have been so tough. We talked for a little while that first day. Her entire focus of the conversation was that she needed to get better. She barely once talked about us. I got no closure. And now trying to talk to her feels like talking to someone I barely know. Despite her saying she wants us to stay close. One of the first things she told me when we started talking was how words meant everything to her. They're so important, they should always mean something. She kept saying how much she cared about us, yet her current actions make me feel the complete opposite. I see her online, hanging out with friends, posting online, like I never existed, like I was just a footnote in her life. I'm here now, I'm going to try to make the best of the trip. But being alone again hurts so much. I don't understand. Some days the distance felt like nothing, and other days she made the miles so much longer. I really tried so hard. I'm exhausted. I'm getting older, feeling the pressure of finding my person really setting in. I don't want to settle, but I feel like I'm going to have to. I want more than anything to just make things right with her, to go back to that week and just give her the space she wanted, so we'd be on this trip together right now. I mentioned above that she's very independent, and her anxiety is taking that away from her. She can't do the things she wants with the people she wants, and I understand that, but what about us? I'm devastated. I know a lot of you saw this coming, and the rest of you all wanted to see this work. How do I move on? I know Therese probably knows saving this, but I wish there was. What can I do? And how do I find anyone like her again? Planned another meetup with my LDR girlfriend. The first one was rough, but this one felt like it was going to be great. We had a rough week and talked a lot about our relationship. However, the day I traveled in, she broke up with me, citing her anxiety as the culprit. I'm not sure what to do now. Important edit here: I've tried local for a few years. I've never had trouble getting dates or matches on apps locally. But I live in a small, rural town, and haven't found anyone that aligns with my values and interests. From my experience over years of doing this is that dating locally will be settling. Which is why I tried online. There's a bigger city about an hour and a half, 2 hours away. Update 3. I wish I could say life gently returned to normal after I posted. Truth is, I came home from that second trip feeling like I was re-entering a world in grayscale. Those first weeks were the lowest I've felt in a decade. I guess that happens when the one you thought you found disappears, not violently but in this slow, polite, apologetic fade out, and you're left checking your phone in case some miracle message appears to undo it all. But after some brutal honesty with myself, pep talks from friends, and a lot of wandering through nearby woods, I started to process everything. I kept busy. I literally reorganized my garage and helped my neighbor assemble a chicken coop just to keep my mind occupied. I held off on reaching out to her. She'd been clear, she needed space and time, and maybe that meant never having me as more than a memory. But it turned out I wasn't the only one struggling. About 3 weeks after the breakup, she messaged me. Not a hey, or I miss you, but a wall of text, the kind she used to write back when things were good. It was honest, raw, apologetic, and then, surprisingly, hopeful. She told me she was working with her therapist on her anxiety, and she realized that what terrified her most was not us, but the pressure of living up to what she thought I needed in a partner. There was a lot to unpack, but more than anything, she just wanted to be open about everything, even if there was no chance for us. I replied in kind. We exchanged long emails, something new for us, since before it was always voice calls or texts, because I guess, ironically, writing can be less overwhelming than talking. The next month was honestly a strange limbo. We weren't getting back together, but we were talking more, honestly, at times more deeply than we did when we were official. She'd tell me candidly about her breakthroughs in therapy, about how small victories meant she could drive to new places alone now, or go a whole afternoon at a cafe without panic. She'd share short audio recordings of her playing guitar, or a joke she'd tell me just to hear me laugh. She said that used to help her nerves. I didn't know what it was: closure, friendship, something more, but it was honest and gentle and not weighted down with expectation. And then, in early May, something changed. My friend from college, Sarah, was hosting a board game night in that bigger city just a couple hours from where I live. I almost skipped it: awkward couples, too many reminders of what I lost. But I went, mostly to prove to myself I could. That night was weirdly magical. Not because I met anyone, not like a rom-com. But because, surrounded by noisy, snacking friends and a truly disastrous Monopoly game, I realized I was still myself and still capable of connecting with new people. One guy actually DM'd me 2 days later to start a D&D group, which I'm still in. Here's where it gets wild. Around midnight, as I'm waiting for my cab, I get a text from her. She saw on my Instagram that I'm in the city. She asks how I'm doing, friendly, curious, not needy, just checking in. And for once, I don't feel gut punched. I actually text back an honest, actually, I'm doing okay tonight. Miss you sometimes, but I'm glad you reached out. No drama, no dangling threads. The next week, she sends me something she wrote on a therapy exercise, what she wanted her future self to say to me. She's not sure if she'll ever be ready for another try at us, or a new relationship with anyone, but she wants to stay in my life. I tell her I want that too, but only if it doesn't derail either of us. Which leads to the next bit of crazy. Mid-May, she messages that her brother just scored a new job in my state, a commute from the city near me. She's planning to visit for a long weekend to help him move, and she asks, would seeing you be weird? For about half a day I agonize. But then I decide, I don't want to hide from either happiness or heartbreak. I agree, but insist on keeping it low-key: coffee, somewhere public, no pressure for closure, or drama, just two people hanging out. We meet at a bookstore cafe halfway between our towns. Seeing her in person again is nerve-wracking, but it's weirdly familiar. She's changed, she seems lighter, more present. She talks about her progress. She can walk into crowded places without the spiral starting. She's back to her art projects. She's even started meeting new people. And me? I talk about chicken coops and D&D nights and finally signing up for that 5K my friend bullied me into. It's nice. Easy. Sad, but happy. At the end of the afternoon, we hug. It's not lingering or desperate, just right. A week later, she Venmos me for the coffee, as a joke. Caption: for finding the best sci-fi section north of the river. Thank you. I laugh for like 10 minutes. Later, she texts to say she's grateful to have met me, even if it wasn't forever, and she hopes I'll always be someone she can talk to, no matter what. And that's where I am right now. Dating? Not really, maybe not for a while, but I'm back in the world, signing up for events, letting myself enjoy being single and alive and not just waiting for messages from someone up north. As for her, She's continuing therapy, going out, sometimes sending me dumb memes or a midnight audiobook recommendation. My heart doesn't hurt the way it did. It's changed, for the better, I think. If the universe wants us to find each other again, someday, I'll be in a better place to accept it. If not, well, I know people like her are real, and I know that next time, I won't wait for someone to save me from loneliness, because, against all my expectations, I ended up saving myself. Update 4. So, it turns out life doesn't just settle down when you decide to move on. In fact, I think the universe heard my cautious optimism and decided to go off script for a bit. If you told me 2 months ago that the next stretch would go from quiet healing to what even is my life right now, I would have said you were out of your board gaming, anxiety-ridden mind. Let's rewind to late May, about 3 weeks after my last post. I was still on my slow, cautious finding normalcy thing. Weekly D&D and woodworking, my garage now looks like a small lumberyard, ticking off local brewery bingo with coworkers, and finally caving into peer pressure to sign up for that charity 5K. I had fully accepted that, while the door with her wasn't actually closed, it was propped open only for sunlight, not for me to slip back through. Cue my birthday. I hadn't planned anything. Last year's awkward FaceTime celebration with her had left me wary of birthday plans for a while. But my roommate and buddies insisted we hit up a trivia night at the most aggressively 1970s themed dive bar in the area. I'm half sober, debating whether to risk the disco nachos, when my phone vibrates. It's her, a single message, HBD, Disco King. I hope you're winning. I don't reply right away, but just seeing her name again doesn't punch me in the gut this time. I pocket the phone and, miracle of miracles, our team wins a $50 bar tab and a suspiciously tall trophy. The next morning, she sends another message. Got a wild story for you when you're up for it. Turns out, she just finished her first big solo art show, something she'd admitted to me months ago she thought she'd never be able to do. Apparently, she told a few of our old online circles she was inspired by someone who made her believe people are worth the effort even when it's scary, flattering, and if you'd been around for all of this, you'd know how huge that is for her anxiety. We slipped back into low-key texting. Nothing flirty, nothing like before, but still consistent, more like the old friends we used to be when we first met. We traded those life lately summaries, me with my amateur carpentry fails, her with museum mishaps and art supply disasters, sometimes both of us sending late-night look at this dumb thing messages. A few mutual friends started to take note and, I'll admit, teased us quite a bit. There may have been a betting pool about will they, won't they, thanks, internet. Here's where the story jumps tracks in a way I genuinely did not expect. Remember her brother, the one who moved to my state? Turns out, he's not just here for the job, he'd broken up with his girlfriend and was looking for a roommate while he got settled. By random chance, Reed, I'm sure there was some gentle suggestion from his sister, he texted me, dude, do you want to split rent? You're basically the only sane dude I know in this city. I visited the apartment, we clicked, and a month later I was signing a lease with the brother of my ex long distance almost love. Life, I swear. At first I was anxious as hell, but he and I weirdly became pretty solid friends, bonding over bad takeout, true crime documentaries, and the fact that neither of us has ever correctly assembled an IKEA chair on the first try. Inevitably, she came to visit him. The first time she texted to see if I was cool with her swinging by, I straight up told her, if you bring Tim Hortons, I won't complain. She did. It was the most surreal thing, seeing her in what used to be my city, tucked onto our mismatched futon, sipping coffee and snorting at terrible trivia shows with her brother and me. She kept her distance at first, but over several weekends, those walls sort of crumbled. She was confident, telling stories, laughing with her mouth wide open, not apologizing for nervousness. Her brother said, you're getting the real her. She confessed later, I thought maybe anxiety would always win, but lately it's just not as loud. I was floored. There was no will we get back together tension. If anything, we both sort of existed in this new, weird third space, comfortable, deeply familiar, but not desperate or longing. She even joined our D&D group for a Saturday game, and the fact that my friends now like her more than me is frankly both hilarious and unsettling. Never introduce your ex to your best DM. Rookie mistake. The crazy part? I caught myself genuinely feeling like this was just what I needed. A friendship that challenged me, history that felt good not painful, no pressure. We joked about timeline B, where maybe it works out, but both of us acknowledged, right now, this weird, evolving, low-pressure friendship is good. She's dating a bit, openly, honestly. She even set me up with a friend of hers after determining we'd be a perfect match for craft beer and Zelda nostalgia. Sorry, Canada, not quite, but I survived my first feel absolutely nothing romantic first date, which should honestly be celebrated. She's come to visit about once a month. Sometimes it's art markets, sometimes just bad movies and pizza. Her brother and I have become real roommates, too, which would be so awkward if anything was unresolved between his sister and me, but it absolutely isn't. He's oblivious anyway, bless him. The weirdness of those first meetups faded until I can honestly say, I like my life better now than I did before all this. I feel more like myself, open, not desperate for connection, actually curious about who'll come along, romantically or not, instead of just waiting for something to be rescued or fixed. There's no fairy tale ending here. If anything, it's a plot twist. I didn't get the girlfriend, but I got a Canadian bestie, a new roommate who's basically family, the most functional emotional closure I've ever had, and a sense that, going forward, I'll never settle for less than honesty and real connection, flaws included. If you had told lonely me last winter that I'd be thriving in this small weird crew with zero romantic drama, honestly loving single life, and planning a group trip to Toronto to see her second gallery show, yes, there will be poutine, I would have asked what you were drinking. So, yeah, that's what's new. Not a love story, but way more interesting. If anything wilder happens, I'll keep you posted, but for now, I'm logging off to join a living room Mario Kart tournament between my roommate, his sister, and a guy from our D&D night. Life doesn't go how you plan, but sometimes, it's way better, just not in the way you ever expected. Update 5. Let's start here. Despite pledging myself to friendship and Mario Kart supremacy, my social circle basically doubled overnight. Her brother, my roommate, started dating someone from my local D&D group, a girl named Mira, who is both intimidatingly brilliant and so effortlessly cool it's genuinely unfair. Think tattoos, niche video game knowledge, and the ability to render the most aggressive bar trivia team speechless. The first time she came over, our movie night mutated into a 4-hour debate about horror movies versus sci-fi, followed by her absolutely destroying all of us in Smash Brothers. It was like getting adopted into a new friend family, and oddly enough, the ex and I slotted into two of the usual gang instead of being a cautionary tale. Around this time, her art show was coming up, the big one in Toronto that everyone in our circle had been talking about. There was never a question of whether I'd go. She sent the group chat an open invite, then snuck me a private message: if you make fun of my installation, you're walking home. So, naturally, the four of us, me, my roommate, Mira, and another friend, road trip north. Picture a tiny car, 24 Red Bulls, a playlist only a board game nerd would love, and me crammed in the back seat texting her updates every time we passed a weird roadside attraction. We stopped for photos with a giant moose. Canada, never change, the weekend itself? Absolutely bananas. Her art show was packed. Like, actual people crammed into the gallery levels of packed. Seeing her work up, seeing her not only weather the crowd but own it, was surreal. After the show, about a dozen of us ended up at a little dive bar nearby. Her art friends, who apparently had heard countless stories about her American friend with bad Wi-Fi and worse puns, my roommate, Mira, the extended crew. She clinked glasses with everyone and at some point dared me to do karaoke. My rendition of Don't Stop Believin' should have stayed buried, but there's unfortunately video evidence now. But here's where things get weird. As the night wound down, she pulled me aside. Not in a dramatic I have feelings way, just totally honest. Turns out, her therapy had been paying off, her confidence was at an all-time high, and she wanted to thank me for being the only person who'd never tried to save her, just cheered her on. She decided to take her be braver energy and confessed, with way more nonchalance than I expected, she'd recently started seeing someone. Not seriously, just coffee dates, walks, that kind of thing. She wanted me to hear it from her, not through the friend grapevine. I genuinely surprised myself. My first reaction was happiness, not jealousy or regret. The relief was so intense it was almost giddy. I told her, as honestly as I could, that I was just glad she didn't feel trapped by her anxiety anymore, and that I was grateful we'd figured out how to make our timeline C work, full-on platonic chaos squad, cheering each other on from the literal, sometimes paint-splattered, sidelines. There was a brief, almost awkward pause, and then she just beamed. I'll always root for you, too. Even if you never win a game of Mario Kart again. Weirdly, it was freeing. That night, our group rambled the downtown streets until 3 a.m., eating fries and swapping stories. She and I hung at the back, neither of us clinging to what could have been or yearning for some grand closure. We talked about all the ways our lives had changed, how, in our own slow-motion ways, we'd gotten braver since the first timid meetups. Since then, life's gone full sitcom. Mira and my roommate are official, and absurdly cute. Our friend group's become a weird family. There are now bi-weekly themed potlucks, and her brother is lobbying to add Canadian Thanksgiving to our calendar just for an excuse to make poutine. My ex and I. Well, I'm not sure what word fits anymore. Best friend? Sibling energy? Chaos co-pilot? Whatever it is, she's come down twice just to catch double features and museum days. We even finished a Mario Kart Grand Prix on the same team, zero rivalry, before launching a campaign to teach my roommate's cat to fetch dice for our D&D games. Success, not likely. And here's another bizarre twist. In the midst of all this new old normal, I met someone. Not through dating apps, not through grand romantic gestures, but via Mira, who decided her group text energy needed to meet my trivia brain. Her friend Jess, an astrophysics grad student with the sense of humor of a stand-up comic, came to trivia night and accidentally spilled a pint on my lap during the first round. We bonded over the world's worst meet cute, then over a mutual loathing of country music, then, a few weeks later, over a very nerdy stargazing date, she brought me an actual constellation map. It's new, comfortable, and nothing like the fate-forged vibe I thought I always needed. Honestly, it's better. The ex and Jess have met, and in the biggest plot twist, hit it off so well they're trading art prints and science podcasts. My roommate's only rules: no X-talk at game night, don't let the cat eat the dice, and anyone who brings regional Canadian snacks skips dish duty. So, somehow, the ending I never saw coming has unfolded. Everyone moved on, up, or around, but instead of drifting out of each other's lives, we've built something new and, honestly, way more fun. If you had asked me a year ago whether I'd have a Canadian best friend, a Geek Squad household, and a new person who makes me laugh so hard I snort, I would have assumed you had me confused with someone from a quirky Netflix original. But here we are, she's thriving, I'm happy, our friends treat us as a joint package deal, and the only real tension is who gets the last slice of pizza at our next board game night. Sometimes these beginnings you mourn hardest turn into exactly the weird found family mess you didn't know you needed. If anything ever tops this, I'll eat a bag of ketchup chips on TikTok live to prove it.